Hey guys, in this video we are going to build a multi-page web application from scratch. This web application is entirely written in Python using the Streamlit package. With that package you can create web applications like this one without writing a single line of HTML, CSS or JavaScript. But before diving into coding out this solution, let me give you a quick tour around this website. Okay, so on the landing page we'll have a contact button. When you click it, a contact form will open up in a new window, and this contact form is fully functional. That means if someone clicks this button down here, we will use a no-code tool in the backend to trigger an automation flow. And in that automation flow, we could then, for example, store the message in a Google Sheets document or forward the message via email. And on the left side, we will have our logo and the navigation menu with the different sections. You can also hide or unhide this navigation menu. And for demo purposes, I have also included a sales dashboard and a chatbot application. However, in this video we won't talk much about the actual code to create these projects, because I already have dedicated videos on my channel for that. What we will do, however, is to deploy the whole application to the cloud. So, if you follow along with the video, you will have your own web application live on the internet for free. The only requirement is that you have some basic understanding of Python and, of course, that you give this video a like. And with that said, let's dive in. Let's get started with installing Streamlit to create our web application. You can do that using pip. If you've already got it installed, make sure you are using the latest version. You can do that by including the upgrade flag in your pip command. Next, I'm gonna install pandas and requests. I'm gonna use pandas to create the sales dashboard in our app later, and for the contact form, we'll use the request package. So, if you haven't installed those packages yet, you can do that by running pip install pandas and requests. Alright, with that in place, let me launch VS Code in an empty directory. In here, I'll create a new Python file called streamlit_app.py. Okay, and just to see if everything is working, let's create a very simple website. For that, I'll import Streamlit as st, and afterwards, I just display the title on the website. Okay, so now to start our application, I'll go back to my terminal. Make sure you're in the same directory as your Python file. In my case, I saved the project on my desktop. So here I'll type streamlit run and then the name of the Python file. After hitting enter, Streamlit will open your default browser. Alright, and here's our very simple website. Now in my case, the dark theme is automatically applied as I'm also using it on Windows. So in your case, you might see a white website, and that's totally fine, as we are gonna change the style of the app later on anyways. Okay, so now that we know that the website is working, let's take care of the navigation. For that, I'll create a new folder and call it Views. By the way, the naming here is not important. In previous versions of Streamlit, you had to name this folder Pages to create a multi-page application. However, with the newer version, you've got much more flexibility, which I'll show you in just a bit. For now, let me create a couple of Python files in this directory. So I'll have a About Me file, a chatbot, and a sales dashboard. Now, to turn our simple website into a multi-page one, we'll define all the different routes in our main file. So let me quickly type out the complete page setup and then I will explain it. Okay, so here I've created 3 pages. The first one is our About page. And here you've got a couple of arguments, for example, where this page is located. In my case, this page is in the Views folder and is called about_me.py. Next up, I can also specify the title, which will be visible later in the navigation menu. And if you want, you can also include an icon. Now, the icon can be an emoji, or you can pick one from the materials library from Google. For that, you just need to include the name material and then the name of the icon. If you want to use an emoji and you're on a Windows machine, you can pick an emoji by pressing the period and the Windows key on your keyboard. Okay, and lastly, I've also defined that the About page should be the default one. That means when we load our website, that will be the first page we see. Okay, and now basically I've done the same for the other 2 pages. One page for the sales dashboard and the other one for the chatbot. In my case, these are 2 projects I want to showcase on the page. So that is why I've called the variables project 1 and project 2. Alright, with that in place, we can now build the navigation menu. And this is pretty straightforward. As before, let me quickly type it out and then I'll explain it. So, to create the navigation, you can use the Streamlit navigation feature and then include all the pages in a Python list. And then the last step is to simply run our application with the pages and the navigation. Now, just to see if everything's working, I'll just include a simple title in each of our pages. So in the About Me page, I'll put a title called About Me. And I'll do this for the other two pages. So for the chatbot and for the sales dashboard. Now with that in place, let me navigate back to our website and refresh it. Okay, and here you have it. We've now got our navigation menu with the different pages. When I navigate to the pages, we can see that the title is changing and that you can also hide or unhide the navigation menu. Now, if you've been using Streamlit before, you know that creating a multi-page application was also already possible. However, now you can structure your navigation. In our app, we only have 3 pages. Yet, at my previous job, I also created an application with more than 20 pages, and then the navigation menu becomes quite messy. But now, with the new release of Streamlit, you can also include sections in your navigation. For that, you can simply use a Python dictionary. The key here will be the section name, and then as before, you can pass in the list of pages. Okay, and when I now navigate back to our website and reload it, this is how it looks like. We now have our section names to keep the whole navigation a bit more tidy. Now, another cool thing is that everything you include in the main entry file here will be displayed automatically on all the other pages too. To show you that, let me insert a logo that should be visible on all our pages. For that, I'll create a new folder called Assets. In here, I'll paste 2 images. One is the actual logo, and the other one is just a dummy profile picture, which we will use in a bit. So, as I said, everything we include in our main page will be shared across all the other pages. So, in my case, I'll include a logo. For that, you just need to pass in the path to the image. And for the sidebar, I'll also include the following text. Now, after saving the file, let's see how this looks. Okay, so now we have a logo in the upper left corner and our text in the navigation, and this will be now displayed on all the other pages too. So when I navigate to the chatbot page and hide the navigation, our logo is still visible. Great, and with that, let's now take care of the About Me page. So here's what the final page should look like. I want to have 2 columns. On the left, I've got the profile image, and on the right, a text with a contact button. And below that, I'll just have some more text with bullet points. Okay, and with that said, let's go back to my text editor and code out the About Me page. So I'll remove the title and instead I'll create 2 columns. And you will notice that you can also optionally specify the gap between the columns, and also in the new Streamlit version, you can finally vertically align the columns too. That can be either top, bottom, or in my case, center the content. So in the first column, I'll insert the profile image, and in the second column, I'll have a title and some text. By the way, as I don't need the anchor link in the title, I have set it to false. Alright, so with that in place, let's check out how this looks on our site. Okay, so far so good. We now have our image and some text next to it. Now, below the text, I also want to display the contact button. And for that, I'll use an if statement. That means if that button is clicked, then I want to execute the following code. Now, in my case, I would like to have a pop-up window, and in this pop-up window, I want to have the contact form. So to do that, I'll call a function that shows that contact form. And up here, I will now define this function. For now, let's keep it very simple, as I'm going to change this form anyways in just a bit. Alright, and to turn the code inside the function into a pop-up window, you can decorate it as a dialog and also give it a title. Okay, and with that, let me save the file and see how it looks. So now after refreshing the page, we can see the button, and when I press it, a dialog window pops up. Now that we know that this is also working, let me just add a couple of more text to this page. For that, I'll simply copy and paste some code. Here I've just included a subheader and some text with bullet points. And to add some padding, I've also included an empty line. So after saving the file and navigating back to the website, this now looks a bit more like an About Me page. And now that we have that, let's work on the contact form. Because for now, as you know, we just have a simple text input field. To change that, we could of course include the code for the contact form also in our About Me page, but for a better structure, I'm actually gonna separate it. And therefore, I'll create a new folder and call it Forms. In this folder, I'm gonna create a new Python file and name it contact.py. So now we can use this file to create our contact form. And to do so, we'll use the form element, in which we can now include all our fields, like a text input field for the name and email, and a text area input for the actual message. Lastly, we'll have a submit button, and if that button is pressed, a message should be sent. However, for now, I'll just show a success message, as we will implement the logic for handling the messages a bit later. Okay, and just like before, I'll turn this form into a function, because by doing so, we can also import it in our About Me page. So here on top, I can now import that function from the forms folder and the contact file. Now that we have access to that function, I'll simply replace our text input field here. Alright, and with that in place, let's test things out. So when I now press the submit button, we'll see our form, and after filling out the form and submitting it, we'll see our success message. Great, so this seems to be working. Now we just need to implement the actual logic of what should happen with the message once someone submits the form. And I'm being honest here with you, but I think the fastest and easiest solution here is to simply use a no-code tool to process the message. Because in that way you can quickly set up a whole automation flow, like forwarding the message to an email account or saving it to a database. Now, to trigger that automation flow, we can use webhooks. In simple terms, webhooks are just informing your no-code tool every time there's been a new submission, and we'll set those things up in just a moment. For now, I'll simply just leave the webhook variable empty here. Because before sending any data to a webhook, let's just do some basic checks, like validating the email address that has been inputted. Now, my validation here is very simple. I'm just using a regex formula that ChatGPT gave me to check if it's a valid email pattern. And since we are using a regular expression here, I'll also need to import that Python module. And for triggering the webhook, we'll also need to import the request package, which we installed at the beginning of the video. Okay, and with that in place, we can actually also do some other checks. For that, let me just simply copy and paste some code here. For example, if we didn't input a webhook, then I want to show an error message. And likewise, I'll also check if the user has inputted a name, an email, check if the email pattern looks correct, and if the user also inputted a message. And only if all those checks are passed, I will send the data via the webhook. And for that, I'm just creating a dictionary and then sending that data in a JSON format to the webhook. And as we are sending data, you want to use a post request. Afterwards, we can check the status code from the response we are getting and see if the data was successfully sent or not. Alright, now as the last step, we just need to get the webhook URL. And for that, I'm using a tool called Pabbly Connect. I'm not sponsored by Pabbly, by the way, but I'm using this automation tool heavily for my own business and also have an affiliate link in the description. However, you can use any other no-code tool like Zapier or Make.com. They all offer webhook, it really doesn't matter. However, what I like about Pabbly is that they have a free plan and also that they have a lifetime deal, which I'm personally also using. But anyways, let me quickly show you how to set things up. Once you are logged in, you can create a new workflow and give it a name. Afterwards, you want to define a trigger, and in here you want to search for webhook. After selecting it and choosing the trigger event, you will get your webhook URL. And now you just need to copy this URL to your clipboard. Then, back in VS Code, you want to paste that URL up here. And that's all there is to it. Now when I go back to the website, we can test it out. First, let me try to submit an empty form. If I do so, we will see our error message down here. Also, if I try to input an invalid email format, I'll also get an error. But if I input everything correctly and press the submit button, we'll see that the message has been successfully sent. And we can also check that. Now, back in Pabbly Connect, if we wait a bit, we will see the submitted data from our form. And as I said, the possibilities are now endless here. If you want to keep it simple, you could just connect your Gmail account with Pabbly and forward the submitted data as an email. Or another quick solution would be to store the data in a Google Sheets document. For that, you just select Google Sheets and choose that you want to add a new row. Lastly, you just need to connect Pabbly Connect with your Google Sheets account and then you're all set. But for now, I leave it here. If you want me to do a full tutorial on Pabbly Connect or show even some of my own automation workflows, then let me know in the comments below. For now, I just go back to VS Code and finish up the web application, as we actually have two more pages left, the chatbot and also the sales dashboard. However, I've plugged in those pages for you as a demo to see what you could do with Streamlit. So therefore, I'll just copy and paste some code in here, which I wrote for some other tutorials. First off, we have a chatbot application. If you're interested in how it works, then check out the following video on my channel. Okay, and for the sales dashboard, I don't have an exact tutorial on the code I wrote here, but I created a very similar dashboard in another video, which you can also check out here. Okay, and with that said, let's switch back to our application. Okay, so after refreshing the site, we can now see our interactive sales dashboard. So when you change the selection here, like the analysis type or the city, the chart is updated accordingly. And for our chatbot, we have a very simple ChatGPT clone. And as I said, if you're interested in the code, then check out the links in the description. Okay, now for the final touches of our application, I'll adjust the overall appearance. However, Streamlit is a bit limited in the native customization options, but there are still a couple of things you can tweak. For that, just create a new folder called .streamlit. Inside here, create a config.toml file. And as we are already here, you can also create a secrets.toml file. We will come back to that secrets file in just a second. But first, let me paste in the following code into our config file. So those are now your styling options. So you can change, for example, the background color or the font color. And typically, there's also a hamburger icon on the right side of every Streamlit application. If you want to hide that, you can also set the toolbar mode to minimal. Now when you try to refresh your site, you will notice that nothing has changed, because to apply the new theme, you need to restart your application. So back in my terminal, I'm pressing Ctrl and C to stop the current session, and then I'll restart the application. And now, as you can see, the new theme has been applied. Okay, and with that in place, let's now also take care of the secrets file. In here, you can write all the values that you want to hide from your source code. In my case, the only value which I don't want to expose is the webhook URL, because I want to avoid that the people are misusing this URL. Therefore, I'll define a variable name here, and then copy the webhook URL to my clipboard. And in the contact form, instead of inputting the webhook URL directly in here, I'm gonna fetch it from the secrets file. With that in place, let me switch back to the secrets file and paste it right here. Alright, now whenever you create a secrets file, I'd suggest adding it also to your gitignore file, so that you don't accidentally push it to GitHub. For that, let me create a .gitignore file and input here the path to the secrets.toml file. Additionally, I'm also gonna exclude any PyCache data, like the one in our forms folder. Lastly, before we are gonna deploy this code, it is also recommended to include a requirements file. This is just a normal text file in which you list down all the third-party dependencies you use in your project. In my case, I used pandas, request, and of course Streamlit. Alright, and with that all in place, we can now finally deploy our application so that everybody on the internet can access it. And I actually already have tutorials on my channel to show you how to deploy Streamlit applications to Heroku or Render. Yet to keep things simple here, let's deploy our application to the Streamlit Community Cloud. For that, we first need to upload our code to GitHub. In my case, I'll just use the VS Code integration for that. First, I'll initialize a new repository, then I will commit it with a message, and after my commit, I'm gonna publish it as a public repository on GitHub. Now that we have the code on GitHub, navigate to the Streamlit Cloud under streamlit.io/cloud. Here you want to log in with your account. After you are logged in, create a new application and select GitHub. Here you can now paste in the link from the repository we just published. Optionally, you can also change the default URL. Now, as you remember, we didn't upload our webhook URL to GitHub. Instead, we included it in the secrets file. So, therefore, click on the advanced settings down here. Here you can now copy and paste the content from your secrets file. So, back in VS Code, let me copy everything and then paste it right here and click on Save. Okay, and with that, we can now deploy our application. Now, this might take a moment, but once done, you should see your application live on the internet. That means everybody with this link can now access your application. Okay, and now as a final check, let me see if everything is still working. And therefore, let me click on the contact button and then navigate back to Public Connect. Here, I'll just click on the following button so that we can recapture the webhook again. Now, of course, you don't need to do that if you set up your automation workflow already. In my case, I just want to show you that it still works and that we are still receiving the data from our application. So when I now go back to our website, fill in the form and submit it, we will first get our success message. And to check it, we can also go back to Public Connect, and here we will see our new submission. Alright guys, and there you have it. Your own web application completely written in Python live on the internet. I hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next video.